Hi everybody, this is your Monday afternoon topic lesson, Human and Physical Geographical Features. So, human and physical geography. We did this quite a little bit when it came to space in our space topic, and we did the two categories about what is considered human geography and what is considered physical geography. Have a little pause and take your mind back, see if you can remember, as it is usually divided into these two main branches. Have a think, cast your mind back, what we did when we turned it into the two categories of human and physical geography. Do you remember? So, human geography. It relates to human activity or something that is humanly constructed. And it studies the interaction between human activity and the planet. It's all things that we have contributed to the planet. It could be stuff to do with the population, cities, things that we've made and developed, talking about global warming and our contribution towards that. Whereas physical geography is all about the planet itself. Nothing humans have anything to do with. Mountains, volcanoes, rivers, all the things that we can't control and is under the branch of Mother Nature. So what you can see on your screen right now, Class 9, you have this in your pack. Class 10, you do not, but I can leave it on Dojo for you to either print or you can copy it right now, as it is just a simple 2-line diagram. This is what you're going to fill in all about Egypt, the human geography of Egypt and the physical geography of Egypt. As we go through the slides, you're going to have to take notes on this piece of paper and see if you can add anything. First, we're going to start with human geography. So it's all about what humans have constructed and contributed in the world. So, human geography and settlements. Settlements are places where people live and work, so they're much just like cities. Have a think to yourself, what is our closest city? Can you list any cities in the UK? They can vary in size, different populations, from tiny villages and towns all the way to massive cities like the one near us, Manchester. Studying settlements can also include looking at the features such as homes, who lives there, how many schools there are, the shops, the parks, and how many people work there. The bigger the city, the more people there are. So this is the time where you are going to fill in some information about your Egyptian city. I'm going to leave this screen up and you're going to pause it. You can have a read through about all the Egyptian cities. Cairo and Luxor will not be new to you, as we had a look at those ones last week, specifically Cairo in our travel estate agent leaflet. And then there's a few more. You might have heard of them, you might have even been on holiday to them. Have a little read through. Maybe you could even do a little bit more research on Google and fill in that tiny bit of work on your sheet that was provided or that you have done yourself in your books. What do you notice about all the cities and what do they have to offer? Can you predict which is the biggest city based on your previous knowledge? Next, we have the economic activity of human geography, how rich that place is, how much money they have. And that's a lot to do with the wealth, the goods that are made in that town or city. And we study economic activity. We look at the amount that that country or town sells and how much that money they make in that town, city or country. It's all to do with the trade links, and we did look at a lot of trade links with our tutors about the to-ing and fro-ing and the different buying and selling between countries. It can affect the country's wealth significantly, and it's also to do with the employment and the housing, how rich or poor the city or the country is altogether. So let's have a closer look at Egypt's economic activity. Tourism, as we know, is one of the biggest sources of income for Egypt. At its peak in 2010, it employed about 12% of the workforce of Egypt, serving approximately 14.7 million visitors to Egypt. and it provided money or revenues of nearly £12.5 billion, or dollars in that case, as well as contributing more than 11% of GDP and 14.4% of foreign currency revenues. That means Egypt's economic activity mostly comes from all the tourists that want to come and visit the cities. It could be Cairo, as we've learnt about before, Luxor, to see the pyramids, to look at the beaches, to do all the exciting things that we looked at last week. So again, can you fill in anything that you found out in your sheet? You may be able to go on Google and have a little look at Egyptians' economic activity, and as an extension you can see how rich they are ranked in the world of countries. Are they at the top end of the richer countries, or are they not as rich as some of those leading countries in the world? And lastly, on your human geography, you will learn all about the population. So population means the number of people who live in a specific area, city or country. It changes over time and the population on Earth is growing rapidly. Have a think, why do you think that is? In geography, we explore possible reasons for changes in places of population, for example, births, deaths or migration. So migration means one person or more than one person moving from one place or country to another. And there could be loads of different reasons for this happening. Could be going for work, to see family, fleeing war, or just going to get some more money from another country. Okay? So we're going to have a closer look at Egypt's population. Now Egypt's population is a really funny one, because if you can see on the picture on your screen, the darker the colour, the more people around. So this big squiggly worm going through the centre of Egypt is the Nile. And obviously around that is the darker colours. So that shows me that lots of people live on the sides of the Nile. Have a think, why do you think that is? And there's hardly no colour on the outskirts of the Nile. Again, that's when we go into the desert. So why do you think nobody lives there? Write that down for me on that section of your sheet. So Cairo, which is in the northeast, it's alone and it's a capital city of Egypt. It has the population of around 11 million people. And that was set in 2009, nearly 11 years ago. So it's definitely going to have improved and expanded since then. Why do you think Cairo is the most popular city to live in? Have a think about what we knew from this week's on our travel brochures. Why would people want to go there? Most of Egypt's people live along the banks of the Nile, and then 2/5 of the population live in a little bit more further out in the urban areas. They need to live alongside the Nile so they can grow crops, so they can do farming, so there's places for nice clean water, because in the desert, hardly any electricity and there's not much going on there. You're not exactly going to be able to get a McDonald's delivery, that's for sure. So now we are looking at physical geography. Physical geography relates to the geography that is naturally occurring, everything to do with Mother Nature and the Earth. So we are going to be looking at the physical geography of weather and climate zones. So as you can see on the image, lots of different countries are in parts of lots of different climate zones. And they're part of the world where we have similar weather patterns. On your screen, can you point to the United Kingdom? If so, you should have pointed up here where my mouse is, and it is green. So that means we're in a temperate zone, which means we're a bit of a mixture. We have winds, we have strong rain coming in, especially in the winter times, but also it has a nice summer. So it's very similar, it's very easy to be habitable. And can you spot any other countries that are the same as us? So a lot of Europe is similar to us, and a lot of the eastern and northern bit of America as well. Whereas Egypt, if you can see it, can you point at it for me on your screen, is around here on the continent of Africa, all of which is in the arid zone. The arid means it's full of desert, it's hot, it's dry, and it is definitely inhabitable, meaning that without water and without being next to a city, you can't really live there. You can't survive in the desert. And that's where we are around here, fully in the yellow zone, just like the top half of Africa as well. And a lot of the middle section of Australia is like that as well. It's very desert land, it's dry, there's not much water, and you can't live there. Have a look at the other zones and the other countries and see if you can guess which ones match to which climates. So like I said before, pause this screen, have a read through about Egypt's climate and weather and fill it in on your sheet for me. Now we're looking at biomes in geography. Biomes are a part of our planet with similar climates, landscapes, animals and plants. So when we study biomes, we explore elements such as temperature, the rainfall, the soils, and everything helps us understand about the animals, the plants, and even the humans that may live there. So, from the pictures below, I want you to point at the biome that Egypt is. Is it 1, 2, 3, or 4? You should have definitely pointed at number 2 here, which is our desert biome. So again, if you look at the map here, you can see that biome, where is Egypt? It's there on the top corner of Africa, and it's got the key which is towards the orange one, which is the desert biome. So you can also see that the top half of Africa is the same, again with Australia, so it's very similar climate and biome, a little bit of the southern Africa and a little bit of North America as well on the coast. I want you to fill in your sheet where it says about the biomes of Egypt and give me some information about the desert. Here's some information. Have a little screenshot of this, have a little read through and put this information, hopefully in your own words, onto your sheet for me. As we was looking at graphs last term, this is a nice one that tells us all about the rainfall and temperature in the desert of Egypt. So we can see the temperature is soaring, specifically within these summer months, and you can see there's definitely no rainfall. That's what we call a drought. So definitely nobody can live there. No, probably animals would survive as they have no water to drink from, and there's definitely not many plants or trees around. However, within January and December, there is a little bit more rainfall than there is temperature. This doesn't necessarily mean it's not a desert anymore. It just means these winter months have changed it. It's still probably inhabitable. It's a little bit cooler, but in these rainfall of the top months here, it's definitely a lot. Topping up to 33 millimeters in rainfall. And you can see here on the temperature on the right hand side goes all the way up to 35 as its top. Lastly, we are going to look at rivers. Rivers are not man-made. They are all Earth's doings, and they are the rivers and large natural streams of water. Keyword there is they are natural. The humans do not make rivers. They flow downhill along a channel from their source, which is usually the sea, a lake, another river, or even a mountain. So, in Egypt, it comes from the sea. Can you pause the video and have a think about what is the name of the sea that the River Nile comes from? So, studying rivers involves learning about how they are formed, why they are there, and you might also want to explore about rivers that can erode land. And that means simply here, if you look at this bottom image here, that the river has gone up to the earth so much of maybe a fast pace, it might be a fast flowing river, or it might be thrashing against it, and over time it has eroded, it has made the rocks come crumbling down, so the earth has fallen into the river. So on your sheet or in your book, I want you to talk to me about Egypt's river and seas. Obviously the main river flowing through Egypt is the Nile, and it is 6,600 kilometres. And it is also emptying into the Mediterranean Sea. So that's what you should have said to me in that last slide. The river has provided a source of irrigation to transform the dry areas around it into lush agricultural land. So that River Nile provides lots of water to give food and drink to the agricultural land, enabling them to grow crops. It's also used for transportation and for trade to get around Egypt. Specifically in ancient Egypt, it was one of the only ways you could travel to different places, as walking through the desert was just out of the question. Today, 95% of Egyptians live within a few kilometres of the Nile. So on your sheet you can tell me all about that. Why do people live so close to the Nile, and why can't they live in the desert? So now you should have a full 2 categories full of the history, of the geography of the Egypt. It should be the physical and human geography with each of those parts filled in. Here's a little quiz for you. So go through the next few slides and see if you can think of these slides being human or physical geography. This was your final quiz challenge. We've come to the end of this lesson. Hopefully, the last couple of pictures you've been able to decide if it was human or physical geography. A lot of them actually had both in. You would see now humans kind of migrate into the physical geography as we need more space for our cities, for our lands, for our roads. And then obviously the physical geography has to suffer for this. I always like this last one, and you would have seen this image when we did space. You can see from the stronger light sources, that's probably where the cities and big towns are, because that's where the light pollution is coming from. If you look over here to the left hand side, there's not that much light pollution, so that shows me that not as many people live here. Extra bonus point, can you tell me which country this is? You should write it down in your book alongside your 2 categories with human and physical geography. I hope you've enjoyed this slideshow.